In today's video, guys, I am going to review and test all of the different inbound options that are available so that I can help you figure out which inbound placement option truly is the best placement option, or in other words, the cheapest way to ship for my fellow Amazon sellers. So what is up, everyone, and welcome back to the channel. My name is Larry, aka Watch Me Amazon. I've been doing FBA since 2011. Whenever I put out videos like this, I try to put as much value into them as possible. So if you get something from it, do me a favor, like, share, subscribe. It helps me out. Otherwise, let's just dive into it. So what exactly is inbound placement? Starting March 1st, Amazon had this crazy idea that they're going to start charging sellers lots and lots of money for the privilege of shipping all of their inventory to one FBA fulfillment center. Now, the reason why it's important for Amazon sellers to ship everything to one location, actually a bunch of reasons why that's important, but mainly it's because when you are prepping lots of products and shipping them to FBA, it is just so much easier for your workflow to have everything going to one place. You can work on one shipment. Everything obviously has the same box labels. Everything is shipping together and going together. So it just makes it that much easier to process inventory that you want to send to Amazon. When you have different locations and different shipments, now you have to keep things separate. You have to manage multiple different shipments. You have to have different box labels. Things are going to different locations. You have to take, extra care to keep things separate. Your workflow really struggles, and it just makes for a less than ideal FBA shipping experience. And that's not to mention the number one reason why it's better to ship to one location, because obviously it is much, much cheaper. Now, for the longest time, sellers used to be able to consolidate shipments to save money and to be more efficient. Amazon obviously knows this, which is presumably why they're still gonna let you do it, but they just wanna charge you for it. Almost honestly like the mob. They just want a little taste. You keep doing what you're doing, all good. Just have my envelope full of cash ready at the end of the month, or we'll break your freaking legs. And that's what inbound placement basically is. And when I say break your legs, obviously, they're not really going to break your legs, but they're going to break the legs of your business. They're going to cripple your systems. They're going to cripple your efficiencies. And if you don't want to pay, not a problem. You don't have to. We're not going to hurt you. But that cute little shipment that you used to send always to your local closest fulfillment centers, well, we're just gonna have you ship it across the country. And not to just one place across the country, but we're gonna make you ship it like 5 different places across the country. It's honestly like a protection racket almost. Anyway, that's inbound placement, and starting March 1st, 2024, every time an FBA seller goes to make a new shipment, when you're making that shipment, you have the option to select whether you want no split shipments, some split shipments, or lots and lots of split shipments. And the more convenient and efficient that your choice is, the more of an extra fee Amazon wants to ding you with. But guys, here's the thing. You may be watching this video and you may be thinking that you're just going to select the cheapest placement option to save money. That's the option called Amazon Optimized Shipment Splits, the one that supposedly saves you money by charging you no inbound placement fees. But my friends, I am here to tell you that in fact might not be the cheapest option. In this video, we are going to find out, is it going to be cheaper to send 5+ shipments with no placement fees, but you got to send them across the country, which means your shipping is probably going to be more expensive? Or is it going to be better to pay that placement fee, but now you have less shipments and you're shipping closer so that your shipping charges probably should be less? So that's exactly what we are going to figure out in today's video. So what I want to do is I am going to share my screen with you guys. We are going to look at a bunch of different shipments, a small one, a medium one, a large one, and we are going to compare all of the different scenarios of inbound placement fees so that we can figure out once and for all what is the bottom line best way to do it. All right, so let's switch over to my computer. I am going to share my screen and let's figure this out together. All right, guys, so here is what I have in mind. we are going to look at three different things. So because sellers are all different and come in all shapes and sizes, what may work best for a huge 8-figure seller may not be what works best for a small seller, just shipping a few items to Amazon. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with a small shipment. Let's say 200 units, and we're going to go through all the different placement options and check the shipping charges to figure out what's what. Then we're going to do the same thing with a medium-sized shipment. So I guess we'll make that 1,000-unit shipment, see what the best placement option is for that. And then for you big dogs out there, we're going to play around with a 5,000-unit shipment. And I think that's a pretty good idea. It gives us like a pretty good cross-section of small, medium, and large sellers. So we have three scenarios: 200, 1,000, and 5,000 units. All right, let's go. So here we have our mock, or our 200 unit mock shipment. And by the way, these are just like standard type items, right? This is not oversized. This is not hazmat. It's just like regular items, standard size items shipping to FBA. And let's see what the inbound placement options we have for sending them to Amazon are. All right. Now, the first thing I just want to say, doing this in the new send to Amazon workflow, the new send to Amazon workflow is just absolute garbage. For me to even start this process, it is asking me up front at the start of my shipment to enter how many boxes I have and what their dimensions are. And honestly, that is just so crazy to me. I mean, unless you're like doing private label and just sending in the same case packed products over and over again for a reseller, whether it's OA, RA, wholesale, doesn't matter. Most of us don't know how our items are going to be packed, how much each box is going to weigh, what the dimensions are at the start of every shipment. If I'm doing pallets, why is it even asking me box dimensions? This is honestly so crazy. And, just a side note, this is like the absolute best advertisement for 2D Workflow ever. When using a software like 2D Workflow, you don't have to enter all of this info, right? You can just enter it as you go while you prep. And yeah, just wanted to throw that out there. Having to enter it now is so nuts, but whatever, I'll play along. So here I am entering how these boxes are packed. I'm going to select 2D barcodes as my box content source, and I'm going to enter the box configuration for these items. Now I hit confirm, and now we can go forward and see what our shipping estimates are. So the first thing that you'll find interesting, and that I find interesting, and I know that this is something that lots and lots of sellers are struggling with right now, is that when you have the smaller type shipments like this, oftentimes you are going to notice that Amazon won't even give you the option to select the free optimized shipment splits option or the partial splits option. Instead, they are literally just forcing you, no matter what, into the minimal splits, and they are forcing you into paying that inbound placement fee. So for the smaller sellers, there is no option. It looks like it's just placement fee only. All right. And you can see here, they have this message that says this shipping plan does not qualify for the Amazon optimized or partial shipment split options. Factors that affect inbound options include shipping quantities, multi-SKU boxes, geographical demand. To maximize the number of inbound options, consider creating larger shipments with more single SKU boxes in the shipping plan. All right. And here you can see the placement fees that they are forcing you to take. So we have $52 to the East Coast, $63 if you want to go central, and $79 if you want to ship to the West Coast. So now in total, and this is like borderline, this shipment, the smaller one is probably too small to ship on a pallet, but they're giving us a quote anyway. But for a standard UPS, SPD, small parcel shipment, we are looking at $211 plus an additional $52 in placement fees for a grand total of $263.55. So if you take placement fees into effect, they are charging you like an extra 25% on top of what it would normally cost you to ship this without the placement fees, right? So I just want to take these numbers and I want to do a little bit of math here. All right, so with the placement fees, we are roughly at 98 cents per pound or $1.32 per unit to ship 200 units to Amazon. But if you remove the placement fees, it's obviously going to get much, much cheaper. All right, now I do want to show you guys something else, something very important. So I know a lot of the smaller sellers have been pissed off when creating shipments, and you guys only have the option for minimal splits plus the fee. But I just want to show you guys the same exact items, the same exact copy of the shipment into the workflow. Because into the workflow, we are creating shipments through Amazon's API, and their API works differently than the way Seller Central works. So when you go to create a shipment in 2D, same items, same SKUs, same quantities into the workflow, you can now see that Amazon will give you the free option to split your shipments and avoid paying the inbound placement fee. And this is not shipping optimization or any special features. This is literally just Amazon telling you that through here, if you want, you can in fact do the Amazon optimized splits and create these 4 shipments and ship them with 0 placement fees. But in Seller Central, this option, for whatever reason, doesn't exist, and you absolutely must ship it through the minimal splits option and pay the fee. All right, so that's what I wanted to point out. So if you want to use 2D Workflow to do optimized shipment splits and avoid the fees, as you can see here, that is definitely an option. All right, now, another thing that I want to show you guys is on these small shipments, oftentimes, I find that one of the reasons why Amazon only gives you the minimal split option is because you are shipping these items as individual units. So if we were to scroll back up to step 1 of the send to Amazon workflow, and we change all of our items from individual units, and then this is nuts, but we make a custom packing template for all of our items, well, then Amazon may give you the additional placement fee options or the additional inbound placement options. Right now, again, this really sucks for wholesale and OA and RA sellers because oftentimes we are making multi-SKU boxes, right? We're repacking things. We have case quantities that are always changing. And for a reseller, it's very hard to create custom packing templates for every single item that you ever send in. It's nuts, actually. Again, if you're doing private label, you have the same items, the same cases all the time, so it's not a big deal to make the templates. But if you're doing anything else and you want to be able to make multi-SKU boxes, for example, or pack items as you go, or ship individual items, or not have to make a special template for every single SKU you ever send in, then I highly recommend using something like a 2D workflow, all right? But for those of you who don't mind all that, now that we have changed our items and made packing templates for each SKU, now we've opened up all the other options, and now we can compare to check which placement fee option is the best. All right, so let's do that. So here we have the minimal splits option again. This one is 1 location, and as you can see, it's a grand total of $263.54. Now, if we decide we want to save a few bucks on placement fees, you can see that the fee goes down from $52 to $40, but because we got 2 shipments instead of 1, the shipping fees actually go up from $211 to $248. So in total, with the fees, the minimal splits option cost $263, and the partial splits option with fewer fees costs $290. So it's actually cheaper to do it with the fees and with less shipments than it is to do less fees and more shipments. All right. Now, let's take a look at what happens if we do the Amazon optimized splits with no fee at all. So for this option, we save $52 on the fee, but the shipping goes from $211 to also $290. So in total, with no fees, the optimized no fee option is $290 with 5 splits, whereas the minimal splits option is just slightly cheaper at $263. So for this part of the experiment, the minimal splits option is not only the cheapest of the 3 inbound options with all the fees included, but it's also the cheapest and also the most efficient, as you are able to get everything to one location. All right, so now let's see if these numbers play out any differently. Instead of shipping in 200 units, let's say we are trying to ship in 1,000 units. All right, so now as you can see, when you do individual items, or if you want to do something like multi-SKU boxes, or if you want to pack as you go, even on 1,000 unit shipment, in many cases, Amazon will still force you to take the inbound placement minimal split option only, and you will have no other choice but to pay the extra $262 in fees alone. And again, just to reiterate, if we were to make the same shipment into the workflow, we're not talking about optimizing or changing quantities, just making this regular shipment in the software. You can and will avoid those fees by selecting the Amazon optimized splits in your Seller Central settings. And then Amazon will allow you to split the shipment and avoid the fees, whereas in Seller Central, they obviously are not. More importantly, though, in my opinion, you'll also be able to pack as you go. You're not going to have to enter case quantities and box content at the start of every shipment. You're not going to have to enter dimensions and boxes for pallet shipments. You'll be able to do multi-SKU boxes, obviously, which I know most of you watching this are probably doing multi-SKU boxes, and all those other things which are really important to resellers and wholesale sellers and OA and RA and all of that kind of stuff. And you'll be able to select the no inbound fee option. Now, presumably, if we want to see and compare all of these options in Seller Central, we again are going to have to change the shipment from individual units to custom packing templates for each box. This is obviously annoying enough as it is with 4 SKUs. I can't even imagine what this is like when you have 100 or 200 SKUs in a shipment. But basically, when you do that, when you use these custom packing templates in Seller Central, you are basically, instead of telling Amazon how many units you want to ship in, like for this example, we are doing, we're sending in 1,000 units. Instead, you are telling Amazon how many boxes you are sending in. So they don't even want to know how many units. Right at the start of the shipment, they want to know how many boxes. So giant pain in the ass, but let's try it. Here now we have our 3 different options. Now, because this is 225 boxes, this is 1,350 pounds. This is something that we will probably want to ship on pallets using LTL or FTL. As you can see with the minimal splits, SPD is not even an option because partnered shipping won't let you take 225 boxes via partnered carrier. But let's check what partnered LTL costs. All right. So we have $262 in placement fees plus $301.98 in estimated shipping fees, which gives us a grand total of $564. Now, when you select the middle option, you save about $120 on placement fees. Placement fees go from $262 to $145, but because you are forced to ship to 3 locations, your LTL shipping cost goes up from $538, or goes up rather to $538. So $538 plus $145, we are looking at $683, which is about $120 more expensive than the supposedly most expensive minimal split option. But it's also more annoying because now you have 3 different locations and it fucks up your flow, right? All right, now lastly, as you can see, if we select the free option, we have no fees at all, but shipping pallets to 5 different locations instead of 1 location is going to be very expensive, and it's going to cost you just under $1,000 at $956, which again makes this actually the cheapest option. It really makes it the most expensive of the 3 options. You got $956 and 5 shipments versus $564 and 1 shipment. All right. So guys, what we're discovering is unless you use a software like 2D Workflow, which lets you plan and ship better while saving on some fees, we're discovering that if you want to use Seller Central exclusively, so far in both of our examples, it is cheaper and more convenient and better and smarter and more efficient to use the minimal splits option and pay the higher fee, because with that, you will have lower shipping costs and ultimately it will be the cheaper grand total when comparing it to the other options. All right. Now, keep in mind, this also takes into account like shipping to the East Coast. If you have to go to the West Coast or if you're based in the West Coast, doubling up on some of these placement fees might make a sizable difference. So again, as you're planning these shipments, if you're using Seller Central, compare the choices so that you can make the most educated decision. All right. Now, lastly, I am pretty confident that if we run this same test for 5,000 units, it's pretty much going to be the same results and the same outcome, but for shits and giggles, let's do it anyway. All right, so now I am going to change the quantities to 5,000 units and let's see what we got. So with 5,000 units, of course, our only options are going to be pallets, and we're going to want to decide, do we go with Amazon partnered LTL or do we run our own full truckloads, which depending on the location, nowadays full truckloads can be anywhere from like 400 to 600 or $700 each. So let's compare. On the minimal split option, 5,000 units gets us $1,312 in placement fees, plus $769 in partnered shipping fees, which brings our grand total to roughly $2,081. All right, now, $2,081 grand total. Now, if I use Amazon Freight or my own FTL, I can get that down to like maybe 500 for a truckload. I see that they want the shipping to North Carolina, which isn't ideal. I'm in Jersey, but all in all, if I get a little creative and don't use partnered and use my own, we can get this option down to roughly $1,800, which is sad, right? Because without the $1,300 in placement fees, it would have been $800, but now our next best option is $1,800. Now, when you compare the partial option with 3 splits, here on this one, you get $725 in fees, but you also get a much higher $1,200 in LTL costs, which puts us closer to like $1,950. And what's interesting here is since I'd be shipping to 3 locations, my own 3 truckloads isn't really ideal. It would probably cost me more than the $1,200 that they're advertising here, or, you know, give and take roughly the same. So if we're just looking at the Amazon partnered fees, the partial shipping option is just ever so slightly less expensive at $1,947 versus the $2,081 for the minimal splits. However, instead of saving $100, like for that $100 difference, I honestly much rather just have 1 shipment instead of 3. It's much more productive for the workflow. So in my eyes, the minimal splits wins out again. Also, it is a bit more expensive to do 3 FTLs or to run 3 non-partner trucks if it's going to, you know, if they split it 3 ways like this. All right. And then lastly, as you can see, when we got the cheapest option, the Amazon optimized splits, which we now know is probably the most expensive option. But yeah, here we have 0 in fees. but we also have $2,000 in partnered shipping charges, so it costs slightly more. It's actually slightly the most expensive one by a little, but again, just the hassle of 5 different shipments makes this very daunting to ship my own 5 truckloads into these locations. Okay, so what did we learn, guys? We learned that Amazon has priced and set up this inbound shipment scheme in a way where in most cases, big shipments, small shipments, medium shipments, it's typically going to be the cheapest and the most convenient way to just bite the bullet and use the minimal splits option. Some sellers may, like psychology, you kind of see the fee and you panic, but if you do the math, you can see that in most scenarios, it is not only the cheapest option, but in my opinion, with the added efficiency, it is very much worth it. All right. Now, important, very super important disclaimer. All right. Keep in mind that taking the hit on the fees and using the minimal splits options is the best choice if you have no other choice but to use Seller Central. My guidance to you guys as someone who has been doing this for 13 years is that the way you win is by being creative. Creativity wins on Amazon. Creativity is going to save you a lot of money on Amazon. So what exactly do I mean by that? Well, what I mean by that is if you do things like use tools like 2D Workflow, which can help you plan and optimize shipments better and give you the option to pack and prep how you want to pack and prep and let you create shipments without being forced into the fee, then you can win and save a lot of money via that type of creativity. Another example, if you are a large seller and you have the option of shipping full truckloads via something like Amazon Freight, one of the things they started doing recently is letting you ship to 3 locations to save on some of the fees, but they'll pick it up and act like it's one location and they're going to figure out the sending it to the different locations for you. So you'll have the benefit of one pickup, but the price savings of partial splits. And by the way, many people might not know this, but you don't need 20 plus pallets to make a truckload worth it. A truckload starts to make sense financially with as little as like 5 or 6 pallets. So to sum all of this up, creative sellers and hustlers are always the one that win and always the one that make the most loot and the most innovative and grow in the long run. So get creative. When you're planning your shipments, explore all options, explore all the different possibilities like I did in this video. When you're making shipments or check out the different shipment planning tools like 2D Workflow. Obviously, I am a little bit biased, but there are other tools out there. It will help you a lot. It will save you a lot of money. Small sellers too. Obviously, nothing is ever going to beat one location with no fees. Those are obviously the best. So be creative and do whatever you can to get to that. And for everyone else, if you're forced to use Seller Central or you want to use Seller Central, tip number 1, first and foremost, always compare the 3 to 4 different options before making your decision. You'll be surprised at what you see. Tip number 2, in most cases through Seller Central, the minimal split option is going to be your best bet. And of course, tip number 3, do yourself a genuine favor and try out 2D Workflow. You'll eventually thank me for it in the comments below. Currently, there is a 14-day trial, so you can test it out for free, and you can check that out at 2dworkflow.com. So that is going to be it for this video. Again, creativity wins. Plan, try new things. Really hope this video provided some guidance, some value. I really hoped it helped. And as always, until the next time, guys, peace.